This project right here is going to take a URL for a website, and it's going to check to see if the item and the size that we're after is in stock. If it is, it's going to load the page up in our browser and it's going to automatically add it to the cart for us. Now I chose to stop it here, but you could obviously go further if you wanted to with more browser automation. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you how easy it can be to check things on websites using scraping and also automate browser with Python as well. So we're going to code through this project. I'll get you to this point, so hopefully you understand a few things, maybe pick up some new tricks. So let's get started. Now I have my project folder here, and it has the virtual environment already activated, ready to go. We're going to install a few things. So we're going to do pip3 install, and we're going to need to use HTTPX because we want to make the request to the server. We're going to need selectolax because that's what I use to pass all of the data. Don't use Beautiful Soup. And we're going to do Playwright as well. That's going to control the browser. Now that that's all installed, you may need to do Playwright install like this. I'm going to do Firefox, I think is the one that I want to use for this. Do Playwright install. I'm going to choose Chromium. I think this is already going to say that I've got it installed. I already do. Ignore the warnings. You won't get that. It will install the browser for you. So now we can create our Py file. So I'm going to do main.py. We're going to start writing our code. In this window here, I'm going to open up Chrome and we're going to get the website up. And I'm going to use this product for an example, I think. Let's find it here. And over in my Chrome browser, I'm going to open up the product here so we can have a look at it. And if you look at choose your size, only some are available, some are not. So we'll work through it like so.
Scaling up your code is one of the biggest problems we face when scraping data, and I always recommend the first step is to use high quality residential proxies. With ProxyScrape, the sponsor of today's video, we have access to those high quality, secure, fast and ethically sourced proxies that are perfect for this use case. There's 10 million plus proxies in the pool to use, all with unlimited concurrent sessions from countries all over the globe, enabling us to scrape quickly and efficiently. I exclusively use residential proxies as these are the best option for beating any anti-bot protection on the sites we're scraping, and with the auto rotation this is the simplest but most effective way to avoid our projects being blocked and allowing us access to the data we need. There's only one line of code to add and then we can let ProxyScrape handle the rest from there. And any traffic you purchase is yours to use whenever you need, as it doesn't ever expire. Other options though, if you just want throughput, then data center proxies with unlimited bandwidth, 99% uptime and no rate limit, all from reputable countries with IP authentication, makes these very easy to use and attractive option within the right use case. So if this all sounds good to you, go ahead and check out ProxyScrape at the link in the description below. Now, on with the project.
So the first thing that I want to do is I want to open up the file in my code editor and we're going to import the things that we need. So we're going to import HTTPX. We're going to import, we're going to do from selectolax.parser. We're going to import in our HTML parser. We're going to import a JSON, which I think we'll need as well. And from Playwright, we're going to use sync Playwright, playwright.sync API. We're going to import in sync Playwright, which will open and run the browser for us and control everything. We'll import in time, and I'm going to also import in logging because this is important and I want to use logging, show you how to use logging more and more going forward rather than just using print because it's much neater and it's better to save logs. We can have a proper timestamp and everything so you can see what's going on. Let's start with this. We might need some more as we go along. So the first thing that we need to think about doing is we need to make a request to the website URL and we can then check the data. Now, the reason why I'm using HTTPX to do this rather than doing the whole thing through Playwright is it gives us a little bit more flexibility on expanding it to multiple products without having to run multiple browsers, hogging up extra memory that you probably don't want to do. Using a browser is generally the last resort. We only want to use it in this case because we want to add the product to a cart and leave it open so we could continue the purchase if we so wanted to. So I'm going to call this function getProductHTML, getProduct HTML. This is going to take in a client, which is going to be an httpx client. Now this is just my type hint. This is just for the type hinting, but this is really important because we want to create a client to use later on so we can have all the headers and everything that we want the proxies sorted, ready to go. Then we'll say our URL is, which is going to be a string, and this is going to return out of here a HTML parser type. So let's do our response is going to be equal to client.get. We're going to give it the URL. Again, we don't need to worry about any headers because they're going to be all added in. And we'll do response.raise for status as well. Raise for status, which will basically, if we don't get a good response, it will cause an exception, which we can then see, what's going on with our code. And I'll say our HTML is going to be equal to HTML parser for the response.text. And we're going to then return this HTML. This is a very standard function. I end up writing this quite a lot when I'm scraping, and when I'm scraping like this, because we want to basically have a function that takes a URL and returns the HTML parser object for that data. So then we can just work on parsing it. So when I'm ready to parse this data, I just have to pass this into my function that does so, which I think we're going to create next. So let's do parse product page. Try and be just descriptive as possible. This is going to take in our HTML, which is a type of HTML parser, and it's going to return a dict out like so. Yeah, sure, let's import that. It's going to complain at me until I return a dictionary, so we'll just do this for the moment. Now, let's have a look at the actual website. And what I always do when I'm coming to e-com sites, to product sites, first thing I do is come to the product page and the view source, not inspect element view source, because what we're looking for is a schema like this one here. Now, this here is the main product information for everything on this page. This is very important that you always look for this first whenever you're doing any kind of e-commerce product data scraping. So if I come to JSON parser, go to our favorite one on JSON parser online and paste this in, what we have inside this script tag here, this one here, this script with application LD plus JSON, is full valid JSON data that has all of the product information, all the main parts of the product information in it. And we're going to utilize this. So if we have a look at this offer here in the middle, you'll see it tells us whether it's in stock or out of stock. And this is what we're going to use, the price, and also the SKU, which is what we're going to use as well to compare. So you'll need to find this information for whatever product that you're looking to check over and over again. So this is very important. So what I want to do is I want to say that our script tag is going to be equal to our html.css. It's a script. I'll show you where I get this from in just a second. And type is equal to, this is a CSS selector, application /LD plus JSON like so. And you need the single quotes inside this when you do this. And this is just this tag here. So we're searching the whole website for everything that matches this script tag here. So if I search for this, oh, there is only one. That's really interesting. There's usually quite a few. So we probably don't need to do this. What we can do is instead of finding all of them, we can just find the first one. And this is going to make our lives a little bit easier. Because there's only one, what I want to do now is I want to load this text that I get from this tag into JSON so I can turn it from standard strings text into JSON, which is going to be a Python dictionary essentially, so I can work with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this name because there's only one of these, so that's making it nice and easier. And we'll call this one product JSON, and we'll say JSON.loads for load a string, the text from. This is going to give us access to all of this data here, which is this information. So now we can loop through it. So we can say for offer in product JSON, because this is a dictionary, we'll just print it out for the moment. We'll print out offer. So let's go ahead and start to try and run our code and see where we're at to. So I'm going to create a run function, and we'll have, we'll fill this out in just a second, and we'll have our if name is equal to under main, and then we'll run. We should probably call that main. Let's call it run. Let's call it main. It is, after all, our main function. There we go. Right, cool. So what do we need to put inside our main function? Well, we need to have in our client that we talked about earlier. So our client is going to be equal to our httpx.client. And within here, what we want is we want to add in our proxies and our headers. So to do that, we can say our proxy is going to be equal to, I need OS module import, yep. os.get.env proxy. Now I suggest that when you use your proxies, you do create environment variables to hold the proxy string, so you never have to put your proxy string directly into your code. It makes your life much easier, and it means you don't accidentally upload it anywhere where people can just use all your data. I'm going to be using our proxy scrape proxies that we talked about earlier. This is mine. They're just behind this get environment variable string. And I'll do this pretty much every time I scrape. I always use these. So yeah, go ahead and check the link in the description below. We're also going to need some extra headers. So this is going to be headers. It's going to be equal to. This is going to be a dictionary. Let's see if this will just format this onto another line. No, not yet. Okay. And our favorite header that we're going to need is the user agent. I'm just going to go ahead and go to my Chrome browser, and I'm going to type in my user agent, and this will give me a nice good Chrome user agent, which I can paste in here. Format that. There we go. So now we have our client set up. So every request we make with our client is going to have our proxy and our headers in, which means this function is always going to use those, which is exactly what we want to do here. So let's go ahead. Let's create our URL variable whilst we're here. Let's grab you. Put this in. Nice. Cool. So now we can run our first function, which is getProductHTML. So we'll come under here and I'll say that the HTML is going to be equal to getProductHTML. Takes in the client that we created and the URL we've just created. And then what do we call this one? Pass product page. So we'll do pass product page on this HTML, which basically now we're going to go ahead, go to the page, grab the data, return that HTML parser in the variable here, and then stick it into this. So we should get some data printed out. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to now run it. So we'll do py main, and we should see some information come up. We do, and this is not quite what I wanted. So we just need to make some tweaks here. Let's just print out the product.json. I've done something ever so slightly wrong, but we will fix that. Cool. So let's double check that we're looking at the right thing. We are. Cool. That was working. So what we want to do is we want to do for offer in pass product JSON, and we need to reference the key of offers. That was my fault. Then we can print out the offer, and that should give us access to each part of that product information, which we should see now. Okay, so we can see that these have come up, and we do have every single one. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to install Rich as well. I often use this because it makes viewing stuff in the terminal so much easier. From Rich, import, print, and let's run it again, just so we can double check and make sure we're looking at everything in the right way. Cool. So now we have these offers. So this is where we're going to get this out of stock, or the in stock here. So we can use this SKU to then decide whether the item, the specific size in this case that we want, is in stock or not. Now we're looking at the right information. What we want to do is we really just want to send all of this data back out of our function, because otherwise we're going to have to start thinking about putting availability checks inside this function where I really don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change this, and we're just going to return this product JSON here. We want to be able to take this out of this function and put it into another one to actually check the availability. So let's call this one product in stock, and this is going to take in the HTML product JSON. So we'll call this the products data. It's also going to need to take in which product to check. So we're going to have the product to check like so. And this is going to return a Boolean. So we want to know that we're going to return true or false. So this is going to be our flag. So we'll return true for the moment. So let's say, well, we're going to have our product data, which is this information here, which we just looked at in the terminal. We want to say, we want to do our loop. So we'll do for product in product data offers. So this is going to be checking. What I'm going to do is I'll just print out the product here so we can see it come through on the screen. And then we'll say if the product to check, and we need to take in a SKU. So I'm going to create, this is going to be this will be a dictionary then, because we want to have it available to say the SKU. Okay, that's fine. It's going to be equal to the product SKU. So this is that check, and we need to make this a double equals. So I want to say if we find that SKU that we're looking to check within that order information, say if in stock in product availability. I need to check this. Availability, yes. Now we're saying if it's in stock, we want to return true. So it's going to check to see if that's available. So what we want to do now is we want to think about, let's say, the item that we want to check. So product check is going to be equal to, and I'm going to put in this as a dictionary to start with. Let's just go ahead and grab this one that says in stock up here. So we'll grab this SKU here. So this will be the one that we're going to check over. There we go. This is going to be a dictionary. So now we can use this to put it into this function here. So we'll do pass product page. So this is going to be our product data. We'll call this product JSON. And then we can do our product in stock. So product, let's just print it out, product in stock, and we'll take in the product JSON and then the product to check like so. Okay, so let's try running this now and see what we've got. So we should see a true after we come through all this information. True, perfect. And let's check the opposite then. Let's just change this to something else. I'll just change it to something that doesn't exist. We're not going to handle that use case. If it doesn't exist, it will just return false. So we should see false now. False, perfect. So the flag is working. So we can go ahead and put this one back to, there we go. So I'm going to call this a new variable. We'll call this one available. And we'll say if available, because this is a Boolean, is going to be equal to true, then we'll do something, do nothing for the moment, or else available, if, I don't know if we need this, we'll do anyway, is equal to false, we'll do something else. So what do we want to do if it's true? Well, we want to launch a browser and we want to go ahead and click on the buttons and do all the product stuff. So the best way for you to do this, I think, is to run it like this. So we would do playwright code gen like so, and this is going to start up this, so you can go ahead and put the URL in here and then follow along with this. Now I've already done this. I'm just going to copy this over and we'll just talk through, because otherwise I'll end up like fiddling around with selectors for ages and it's not that interesting. Okay, so this is the launch browser function that I've created, and what this is going to do is it's basically going to start up our Playwright browser, create a browser and a context and a page, which is basically everything that we need, and then we're going to go to the URL that we specify. This is going to be the product URL, and then from here this basically is us clicking on a couple of buttons to select the size. Now if you do the code gen and follow through, you might need to do it a couple of times, but you'd end up with something very, very similar to this. I'm then clicking on the size, adding to bag, and I'm going to the bag on the link. And then I put the sleep in to close and stop it. If you wanted it to stay open forever, you just need to comment these out. I'm going to leave it like this so it would eventually close itself. So this function is pretty simple. Use the code gen as I showed you and follow along, and you'll get most of the selectors done that way rather than having to click through them yourself. You just have to be a little bit conscious though, because the code gen doesn't always select the best selectors to use. So use your own judgment on that. So now that we have the launch browser function, we can put it into here. Launch browser onto the URL first, was it? URL, yeah. And we need to give it a size. So what I'm going to do is inside the product SKU, we're going to create a size, the product to check, we're going to create a size variable, and I need to go and find out what size 47 is. The reason why we need the size is because this SKU is what we want to use to check when we're checking the availability, but it doesn't have the size in, and the size is what we need when we want to select it from here. So you just need to make sure that those match up like so. So once we've got this, we can then give it the size. So we can say our products check, and we want the size here like this, save, and else if it's false, we're just going to pass for the moment. So now I have this it should be in stock. What we're going to do is we're going to run this, and this should basically load the browser up for us now and start to go through. Let me just move this quickly over to this side, clicking on a few things, adding to bag, and there we go. That was nice and straightforward. I'm going to close this up here. This is the bare bones of everything. You would probably want to flesh this out a little bit more. There's probably some edge cases that we want to handle, but the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in some logging, and I'll do this real quick just so it's nice and easy, so you kind of get the idea. But I tend to just use basic logging, a basic config. I know that this isn't ideal, and a lot of people say that you should use your own. You know, this works just fine. What this means is we can now put in proper logging into our code, which means, you know, if I come down here and say logging.info, and we can say something like product in stock launching browser, and save, and we can all now do logging.info here, product out of stock, and we'll change this just for the moment. Let's make a copy, actually put this one here, and we'll comment this one out, and we'll make this one that is not in stock. In fact, I'll just change this to this again, like so. So this will be out of stock. And let's go back up to here, and it will automatically log the URL request for us. And I don't want to print the product, but what we are going to do is if we do logging.info, and I'll just say, we should just do something. We can use an F string in here. What should we put in? Product, check, and we'll put in product. This needs to be, I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to do here. Products. Oh, we'll just do this for the moment. And there we go. Right. So if we run this again, we'll see the URL come up now, and it'll tell us that we're going to this URL. It'll have us a nice timestamp. We can see we've logged out the product, and it also has the time that it all happened. You can see here, and it says product out of stock with a nice timestamp across the bottom. But we're only running this once, and to check products over and over again, that's not particularly useful. So what we want to do is we want to create a while loop to run this main function over and over again. I'm going to put this in here. So I'm just going to do while true. So this will run forever. We'll run our main function. And then after each one, we'll do time.sleep. And this is up to you. I'm going to set this at 5 for the moment. This is obviously going to be too quick. And I'm going to remove some of this logging because that was way too much information going on here. We're looking at this product, so we'll just do, let's see if we can just log out the name. And what we're going to do is we're going to copy this, and we'll put this above like this, so we don't get loads, and we can kind of just product data. Right, cool. So I'm going to save, and now we have, let's clear this up so it's a bit easier to see. So we're going to run this every 5 seconds. You can see we're making a request. We're checking this product is out of stock. And it's going to do exactly the same thing in another 5 seconds, like so. And eventually you run this, I don't know, every 5 minutes or something. And then when the product came back in stock, it would launch the browser, just like I showed you in the other demonstration. So that's essentially it. This is the beginning of something that people might find interesting or useful. Hopefully you've learned something from this. We found good ways to check product information by looking for that schema inside that script tag, which gives us that JSON, so we don't have to mess around with parsing loads of HTML. And then we've done a simple true or false check. And if it's true, we're going to launch the browser. Again, use code GEM for this and tweak the selectors as required. I just find that much easier. Then we're going to run everything, and we're going to run it every 5 seconds to double check. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have and you want to know more about automation, there's this video here. Or if you want to know more about scraping data, there's the other one on the other side, whichever way around they are.